In today's world, well, information's everything, isn't it? It's often a company's biggest asset.
Absolutely. Gold dust.
But keeping it secure, that feels increasingly complex, like walking through a minefield sometimes.
You're not wrong. It's a major challenge.
So how do the really successful organizations tackle this? Well, today we're going deep. We're diving into the cornerstone, really. ISO/IEC 27000.2018.
The foundation.
Exactly. Think of this as your fast-track session, your executive summary to get you up to speed on protecting what really matters. Our mission is pretty straightforward today.
Yeah, we want to give you, the busy executive or manager, a clear, concise takeaway on the core concepts. No jargon, just the essentials.
We're kind of your instructors for this deep dive, cutting through the noise.
That's the plan, and our source is the standard itself, ISO/IEC 27000. It's the overview, the vocabulary for the whole 27000 family of information security standards.
And this isn't just for tech giants, right?
Oh, definitely not. It's designed for organizations of, well, all types, all sizes. Doesn't matter the sector. It's universally applicable.
Good. So let's demystify it. Let's start with the basics. This term ISMS, Information Security Management System. What is that, really?
Right. So an ISMS, think of it as your organization's game plan. It's the strategy for managing and protecting your information assets.
Okay, a game plan. I like that.
It's the collection of, policies, the procedures, the guidelines, and also the resources and activities needed to make it all work.
So it's the how-to guide plus the tools and people.
Exactly. It brings it all together to safeguard your data, your information, and, crucially, to help you achieve your business objectives.
And it's systematic.
Yes, that's key. It's a systematic approach. And it's based on understanding risk, doing a risk assessment, and deciding what level of risk is acceptable for your business.
Okay, accepting risk still sounds a bit counterintuitive when we're talking security. Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure. It doesn't mean being careless. It means being strategic. See, a strong ISMS relies on some core principles.
Like what?
Well, things like awareness. Everyone needs to understand security. Clear responsibilities, knowing who does what. Real commitment from management, that's huge.
Top-down buy-in.
Absolutely vital. Plus, considering stakeholder interests, societal values, and importantly, using those risk assessments to decide which controls you actually need.
So you tailor the security.
Precisely. Security isn't just tacked on, it's built in. It requires active prevention, detection, a comprehensive view, and constantly reevaluating.
And the risk acceptance part.
Right. The reality is you can't protect against everything perfectly. It's just not feasible or cost-effective. So a mature ISMS helps you make informed choices about which risks you can live with based on your business context and focus resources where they matter most.
Okay, that makes more sense. Now, when we say information assets, what are we really talking about? Is it just the data on our servers?
Good question. No, it's much broader than just digital data. The standard sees information as, well, any knowledge that has value to the organization. Yeah. Digital files, sure, but also physical documents, contracts, reports, intellectual property, even the expertise your people have in their heads. Anything that, if it were compromised, lost, or unavailable, would hurt the business.
So paper, digital, even spoken information.
Exactly. Information exists in different forms, gets transmitted in different ways. All of it needs protecting.
And information security is about?
It's about ensuring the CIA triad. Confidentiality, keeping secret. Availability, making sure the right people can get the information when they need it. And integrity, ensuring the information is accurate and complete, not tampered with.
CIA. Got it.
An ISMS helps you put the right controls, technical, physical, procedural in place to minimize the fallout if, something bad happens, a security incident.
And you mentioned management commitment earlier.
Yeah.
What does management mean in the context of an ISMS? Is it just overseeing things?
It's more active than just overseeing. It means directing, controlling, and this is crucial, continually improving how the organization protects its information. It's tied directly to achieving business goals.
So it's an ongoing process, not a one-time setup.
Absolutely. It's proactive. And the management system itself, the ISMS, that's the framework that makes this happen.
It's a structure.
Yeah, the structure, the policies, the planning activities, who's responsible for what, the specific practices, the processes, the resources allocated. It's the engine driving your security.
And benefits of having this engines?
Oh, they're significant. It helps you meet customer and stakeholder expectations on security. It gives you a structured way to improve your security planning, helps achieve business objectives, ensures you're meeting legal and regulatory requirements.
Compliance is a big one.
Huge. And it allows you to manage those vital information assets effectively, always aiming for continual improvement.
Okay, I think I've got a much clearer picture of what an ISMS is now. But let's talk about the why. Why should an organization really make this a priority?
Well, fundamentally, the standard highlights that an ISMS is critical because it tackles the risks associated with your information assets.
Which can come from anywhere, right?
Right. Exactly. Physical threats like theft or fire, human factors, accidental errors, or maybe malicious insiders, and of course, technological threats, hacking, malware, all that stuff.
So adopting an ISMS isn't just a technical project.
Not at all. The standard frames it as a strategic decision for the business. It needs to be woven into how you operate, and it needs to scale and adapt as your organization changes or grows.
And it's not one size fits all.
Definitely not. An effective ISMS has to be tailored. It depends on your organization's specific needs, your objectives, your security requirements, the business processes you use, your size, your structure, even stakeholder interests play a role.
It really feels like the threats are just multiplying constantly, especially online.
You're absolutely right. We're so interconnected now. The standard points out the increasing dangers: fraud, espionage, sabotage, hacking. It's a long list.
Scary stuff.
It is. And an ISMS provides that essential framework to control who gets access to sensitive information and how it's handled. That control is paramount today.
And you said it's not just tech.
Right. That's a crucial point. Information security isn't just about firewalls and encryption. Technology is part of it, but it needs strong management oversight and clear procedures, the ISMS, to be truly effective.
Can you give an example?
Sure, think about access controls. You need technical controls like passwords or biometrics, but you also need physical controls, locking doors, securing server rooms, and administrative controls, things like clear policies on who can authorize access, background checks.
Okay, the whole picture.
Exactly. The ISMS brings all those pieces together.
So let's say an organization invests the time and resources. They build this robust ISMS. What are the main payoffs? What are the big benefits?
Well, the biggest one is greater assurance. Much higher confidence that your critical information assets are protected consistently against, well, a whole range of threats.
Peace of mind.
To a degree, yes, but also a structured framework for managing risk. It becomes systematic, identify, assess, treat, monitor, repeatable.
That sounds efficient.
It is, and critically, it promotes that culture of continual improvement. Your security posture doesn't stagnate. It evolves. Plus, it makes navigating legal and regulatory compliance much, much easier.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the standard talks about a cycle: establishing, monitoring, maintaining, improving the ISMS. Can you walk us through that cycle at a high level?
Yeah, it's a continuous loop, often called the Plan, Do, Check, Act, or PDCA cycle in management systems. First, you plan, identify your assets, figure out the security requirements. Then you assess the risks and decide how to treat them.
That's the plan part.
Right. Then you DSO, select and implement the controls you decided on.
Put the plan into action.
Exactly. Then you KEECH. You monitor how well things are working. Are the controls effective? Are you meeting your objectives?
Measure the results.
Correct. And finally, you ACT. Based on the checking, you make improvements, you tweak things, update policies, maybe implement new controls, and then the cycle starts again. It's not a one-shot deal.
Constant refinement. How does an organization figure out those initial requirements? Where do you even start?
Good question. The standard says you need to understand a few things clearly. First, what information assets do you actually have, and what's their value to the business?
Know what you need to protect.
Precisely. Second, what are your business needs regarding that information? How do you need to process it, store it, share it? Third, what are your legal, regulatory, or contractual obligations? You absolutely have to factor those in.
Compliance again.
Always. Then comes the risk assessment. This means looking at potential threats, identifying vulnerabilities in your systems or processes, figuring out the likelihood of a threat exploiting a vulnerability, and crucially, estimating the potential impact on the business if it happens.
So threat, vulnerability, likelihood, impact.
Those are the key components. And the standard makes a really practical point. The money and effort you spend on controls should be proportionate to the potential business impact of the risk you're trying to mitigate. Don't spend $1 million protecting something worth $10,000.
That sounds sensible. But risk assessment itself feels like it could be a huge undertaking.
It can be, but it needs to be systematic. You identify the risks, you quantify them in some way, maybe high, medium, low, or using more detailed scales, and then you prioritize them against your organization's agreed-upon risk acceptance criteria and your objectives.
So you decide what level of risk you're willing to live with.
Exactly. And importantly, this isn't something you do once and forget. The standard stresses periodic assessment. Your business changes, technology changes, threats change. So your risk assessment needs to keep pace.
Makes sense. After assessing, what are the options for dealing with the risks? You mentioned risk treatment.
Right. The standard outlines 4 main ways to treat risk. 1, apply controls to reduce the risk. This is the most common approach.
Fix the problem.
Or at least lessen it. 2, knowingly accept the risk. Maybe the risk is very low, or the cost to fix it is way too high compared to the potential impact. But this needs to be a conscious, documented decision based on your criteria.
Okay.
3, avoid the risk. Maybe you decide to stop doing the activity that creates the risk altogether.
Get out of that line of business, for instance.
Potentially, yes. Or change a process significantly. 4, share the risk. This often means transferring it, like buying insurance or outsourcing a specific function to a third party who assumes some of the risk.
Okay, reduce, accept, avoid, share. Then comes actually implementing the controls you choose.
Exactly. The goal is always to bring the risks down to that acceptable level you decided on earlier.
And choosing the right controls.
You need to consider lots of factors: legislation, regulations, your business objectives, operational needs, the cost both upfront and ongoing. And the standard points towards ISO EC 27002 here.
Ah, another standard in the family.
Yes, 27002 is like a big catalog of best practice security controls. It's incredibly useful for figuring out what controls you might implement for different situations.
A practical guide.
Very much so. The standard also emphasizes thinking about security from the start when designing new systems or processes. Trying to bolt security on later is usually harder and more expensive.
Build it in, don't bolt it on.
That's the mantra. And remember, even with the best controls, absolute security is impossible. That's why that check and act part of the cycle monitoring and improving is so vital.
Always checking performance.
Constantly. Against your policies, against your objectives. Management needs to review these results regularly. Continual improvement is the name of the game, always looking for ways to better protect confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
The standard also mentions critical success factors. What does an organization really need to nail to make their ISMS successful?
Yeah, it lists several key things. First, alignment. Your security policy, objectives, and activities must line up with your overall business goals. They can't operate in a silo.
Security needs to support the business.
Absolutely. Second, the approach needs to fit your company culture. What works at a bank might not work the same way at a tech startup. Consistency with culture is key.
Makes sense. What else?
Visible management support, we mentioned it before, but it's non-negotiable. Leadership has to champion it.
Walk the talk.
Exactly. Then, a solid understanding of why you're protecting assets, driven by good risk management. And here the standard actually points you to another standard, ISO IE C2705, for detailed guidance on risk management itself.
So 27005 for risk management specifics.
Right. Also crucial, effective awareness and training. Everyone needs to know their role in security. A good incident management process, knowing what to do when things go wrong, a solid business continuity approach so you can keep operating during disruptions.
Resilience.
Yes. And finally, a measurement system. You need metrics to know if your ISMS is actually performing well and to feed that improvement cycle.
That's quite a list. It sounds like looking at the whole ISO 27000 family of standards offers more than just this overview document. What are the benefits of considering the wider family?
Oh, definitely. The main benefit, as 27000 itself says, is reducing information security risks and their impact. That's the bottom line.
Risk reduction.
But there's more. The family provides that structured, internationally recognized framework. It helps management operate responsibly regarding security, fitting it into overall governance and risk management.
Promotes good practice?
Yes, global good practices, but adaptable ones. You tailor the controls. It also creates a common language, a shared understanding. This really helps build trust with business partners, especially if you or they are certified against 27001.
27001 is the certification one.
That's the main one people get certified against, yes. It specifies the requirements. Using the family boosts stakeholder confidence, helps meet societal expectations around data protection, and ultimately leads to managing your security investments more effectively. Better bang for your buck.
So just to round out the picture, could you briefly mention some of the other key standards in this family? We've heard 27001, 20700, 20005.
Sure. So 27,000 is the overview and vocabulary we've been discussing. 207,001 specifies the requirements for the ISMS. 217,002 gives the code of practice for controls.
Got those.
Then you have others focusing on requirements, like 27,006 for the bodies that do the auditing and certification. And 27,009 helps apply 27,001 to specific sectors.
Sector-specific versions.
For guidance on applying it, yeah. Then there's a whole raft of guidelines. 27,003 offers guidance on implementing 27,001. 27,004 is about measurement. 27,005 is risk management in detail. 27,007 is for ISMS auditing.
Wow, there are quite a few.
There are. There's guidance on integrating it with other management systems like ISO 9001, that's 27013, governance of information security, 27014, even the economics of security, a technical report, TR 27016.
And sector-specific guidelines, too.
Yep. Specific guidance for telecoms, 27001, cloud services, 27017, protecting personal data in the cloud, 27,000, energy utilities, 2709, and healthcare, IS 2777099. It's a comprehensive family.
It really is. So ISO IEC 27000, the one we focused on today, is truly that essential first step, that foundational piece for anyone needing to get serious about information security management.
Absolutely. It lays the groundwork, provides the concepts and terms you need. It's fundamental for any organization that values its information and wants to protect it properly.
And while we've given a sort of executive summary today.
Exactly. This was the high-level view. Each area we touched on, risk assessment, controls, monitoring, really deserves a deeper dive depending on your specific situation, your organization's context.
It definitely gives you a solid structure for thinking strategically about security.
It really does. And maybe that leads to a final thought for you to ponder. Given how interconnected everything is now, this digital landscape we live in, what single principle or aspect of an ISMS do you think is the most critical for ensuring real resilience against the threats we know are out there and the ones we haven't even seen yet?
That is a good question to think about. Definitely food for thought.
Something to mull over.
Well, thank you for joining us for this executive briefing, this deep dive into ISO IEC 27000.